It's October 2022. You're with the Mike Mangold Investigation Channel. It's time for an update. And we have a special guest today. We are lucky enough to have Joe Morales here. Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself, your credentials, and how you came to know and work with Mike Mangold.
Well, thank you, Robin. It's a pleasure to be here and help you guys out. Yeah, by trade, aircraft mechanic. I'm an A&P IA. Got involved working with jet warbirds out at Mojave. And I got introduced to Mike through a mutual contact many years ago. Long story short, Mike acquired a Viper-powered L-39, wanted a race at Reno in 2009. I joined up with him. We had some fun and some trials and tribulations, but it turned out Mike, we came in second in the Jet Class Gold, and Mike won Rookie of the Year. And I just wanted to find out where you are on this, or if any other movement has been made since the last time we've spoken.
Well, we try to post any updates we have that I can make available to the public. Now, NTSB reports, those are available to the public. And we post on Facebook, Instagram, a little bit on Reddit, not so much anymore, and mostly on YouTube. And, you know, look under Mike Mangold, there's a lot of videos out there about him. So that's where you'll get the latest publicly available information. And of course, many people text me, call me, email me, and I'm allowed, I can say a few more things like in a not so public setting, but that's pretty much where we're at. And continue to stay tuned, perhaps subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll keep you updated on things.
I formally retired a year and a half ago, and I'm loving it. I don't do anything anymore, so I'm really digging that. But once in a while, I tinker around with aircraft, and I'll go on the websites. One of the things I looked at was the timeline when Mike got this aircraft and the days that he flew. And there were excerpts from his logbook that shows his time up at Stead, Reno, ferrying the aircraft around, flying it around. And it seemed like after Reno, he put some time on that aircraft, and then it went up to have its condition inspection done. And I know the facility that did his condition inspection, and it seems like they've worked on the aircraft in the past. I would consider them a top-notch facility. I've known them for a number of years. They've helped me out on a number of the years, and I couldn't say anything bad about them. I've always seen them and know of them doing great work. It seems like they completed the annual condition inspection, had no problems. The aircraft was run up. All parameters came in. Everything was great. I understand that there were 2 ground runs done on the aircraft. All this was around the 23rd of November is when everything was signed off in the logbooks according to the documentation. And then the aircraft was flown, a couple of functional check flights. And then somewhere along the line, the aircraft was flown back to Apple Valley. From what I understand, Mike got the aircraft back to Apple Valley, and it was parked there. And from what I understand, it was parked outside for a few days. Mike went off and had a flight. He flew for, I believe, American Airlines.
That's
I guess
right.
He went off to South America somewhere, came back, and then on the 6th, which I believe was a Saturday, the 6th of December, 2015, he agreed to give a demo ride to someone he was introduced to by a mutual acquaintance that was on the airfield. And it was during that time that tragedy struck. So,
right.
Yeah, so then I went on to read, there's a very detailed engine report where I guess, and I wasn't aware of this, but I guess the fuel control and everything was sent back to the Czech Republic. And I believe some techs, either with their civil aviation authority or with Aerovodochody, they did an analysis on that FCU and found out it was set to put out 85 atmospheres of pressure, which is like the max.
Right. So most of our viewers, so they know it, at 1 atmosphere is a European measurement, 14.69 psi US measurement. So that's the multiplier, how you would figure it out in psi. But go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. So that was one of the highlights that they came up with. The normal setting should show between 48 to 50, and the absolute maximum atmospheres should be 65. Anything over that, as far as maintenance, is cause for rejection and troubleshooting. Another thing that they found was the fuel nozzles were very, very coked and covered with soot. And this kind of contradicts what the maintenance facility found. No evidence of that on the fuel nozzles. They went in with a bore scope. They looked at the hot section, found nothing there burnt or hot or anything. So yeah, there's a real mystery there. The amount of soot and everything on those fuel nozzles, I find it kind of boggling that it collected that quickly in one flight or one event or whatever, assuming that the maintenance facility did everything they did correctly. And in my opinion, again, knowing their background, they did. Again, I'll state again, the facility that worked on this aircraft, in my opinion, is top notch.
I agree with you, Joe. Now, if I could add in at this point, and then I want to get your opinion on a theory I have, and I said this in video number 2 about the fuel control unit setting. So we know Mike flew the jet from Reno to Apple Valley on December 2nd, and he did it on 1 tank of fuel. So he couldn't have had the higher FCU setting, because you do the math on the fuel consumption, he would have had to stop and refuel. And he probably would have burned up the engine coming down at FCU at 85 ATM. And we know from previous, my video number 5, that the FCU was set at the 48 to 50 range when they left Reno after the races. And at the races, well, I'll get into that more later, what he did the races. But so the jet comes down to Apple Valley, Mike parks it December 2nd. Of course, he does a walk around. There's no burnt tail cone. There's no problems with the flight. He doesn't say anything to anybody. So then he does I agree with Joe, he goes down American Airlines to Brazil. He comes back the morning of December 6th. He comes in and he goes to his residence home first. He has breakfast with his son, Nick. It's a brief conversation. Then Mike goes to the airport to fly with the passenger, Geza Desi, who also died with Mike Mangold on December 6th. There was no guarantee Geza was going to fly that day. It was an intention to meet with Mike, autograph, and perhaps fly. Perhaps they didn't know about the FCU setting. They were confident. They didn't even put the flight suits on. Normally they wear their flight suits. We get into more of that later. It's a flame retardant flight suit. So you could tell it was a casual flight. There was no concern about any risk or safety or fire. They're in their normal clothes, jeans and a t-shirt. Matter of fact, behind me, you can see what Mike wore that day, the burnt clothing I still have here in this display. So they fill it up full of fuel. Eyewitnesses say they're in a good mood. They're joking around. So because Mike's within this 3-day window from bringing it out of the annual from the maintenance facility, he doesn't have to do a full run-up. He does a partial run-up, which means he only has to go throttle up to 85% power. Then he pulls onto the runway and he starts his takeoff roll. And he moves the throttle forward, 100% power, perhaps 106% power. At that moment, he is now testing the FCU at the maximum fuel pressure, fuel delivery to have takeoff power to go up. So within, say, 3 seconds, the fuel pressure is going up, and it probably shot way past 65 to 85, 85 or even higher, because that's what the setting was. Eyewitnesses saw flames out the back of the engine tail cone, which is not normal. And they saw gray smoke coming out the back. Mike's in the takeoff roll. Then he starts gaining speed. You know, he nose up and he takes off, and they hear pop, pop, pop by several eyewitnesses. And my belief is the nozzles were bad by the NTSB report. My theory is that this intense heat and fuel pressure leaked fuel around, blew out the fuel nozzles with this 50% higher pressure. This is what blew the nozzle out and made it go pop, 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 in my opinion. And we had a unique, intense heat, time compressed event in roughly 20 seconds that just burned and disintegrated this engine from the inside out. As evidence, the inside the tail cone's burnt, but not the outside the tail cone. I have photos to show that. Maybe control room, you can get those up. We could take a look at that photo, see the burnt inside.
We were operating at 85 atmospheres. You're looking at over 1200 PSI. Now, whether they blew anything out or the fuel nozzles or the fuel nozzles were already bad to begin with, somewhere along the way they went bad. Again, that's speculation. I don't know. That's one of the enigmas in this mystery. The other side of it is, you know, what Mike saw or didn't see on the fuel flow when he took off, what he saw or didn't see as far as EGT. If they were blowing a lot of fuel into the burners, I would guess, from what I know about the L-39, is he would have seen a very big spike in his EGT. So again, we don't know, and that's one of the mysteries to be solved here. So I do know, I will say this, my time on the L-39, I never touched a fuel control. It's very complicated. There's only a handful of people that I'm aware of out there that really know what they're doing in adjusting these things. The facility that did the condition inspection, they basically said the same thing in the NTSB report, where it was stated something to the effect that, and I feel the same way, that if I was inspecting an L-39 and I saw some parameter that was out of requirements, out of maintenance requirements, and I felt it involved the adjustment of the FCU, the Fuel Control Unit, I would not attempt to do it myself. I would call somebody in that really knew this equipment, had the equipment to do an FCU adjustment, and really knew what they were doing.
And let me add to that, Joe. I agree, and Mike agrees with you, because the evidence shows, I've interviewed Tobias Odewald, the mechanic from 2015 at Reno, and Anna Boardman, the crew chief. Now, they called in an expert to tune the FCU, a race setting, if you will, at Reno, and they had a discussion. They did not go over 65 ATM because it's too risky, because you would damage the engine, a $300,000 engine. Why would you want to push it and break it and risk your life that way? So they're within spec, manufacturer spec, red line 65 ATM. They discussed it. Mike supervised it. As far as I know, Anna Boardman did not participate in that. She was not there. That's what she told me. I believe her. So Tobias was there, and with another team's crew chief, not Mike's, an expert who does this. I don't know his name. They adjusted the FCU to a race setting. And of course, the flight suits are on. There's no one in the back seat. He wouldn't allow anyone to fly. People asked to fly with him. He wouldn't let them. That's at Reno. He had all the motive, means, and opportunity to go higher, but he did not because of safety. Doesn't matter what prize money would have won or a trophy. You know, is this worth risking your life? So we have the behaviors of Mike that he would not do the setting, and he had 5 days of racing and qualifying up there to do it, but he didn't do the setting. He didn't even fly with somebody else. But now we're back down in Apple Valley, December 6th. Why does he fill the jet up full of fuel, no flight suits on, and he takes a passenger up? And he didn't, if he did do this 85 setting, where did he test it? Where did he do a run up? We have eyewitnesses that saw that jet parked on the ramp on the tarmac, tied down with the canopy cover for the 3 days, December 2nd to December 6th. Yeah, I know you say it's 4, but he arrived late in the day, December 2nd. They started flying earlier, you know, they were going to fly earlier in the day, December 6th. So we call it 3 days or 72 hours because he's within that window. He didn't have to do the full run up. So why would Mike change his behavior and do an 85 ATM setting at Apple Valley? It's not a race. It's not a speed competition. There's no trophy. There's no cash prize. It doesn't make any sense why Mike would do this setting or allow it down at Apple Valley when he could have done it at Reno. He had all the motive, means, and opportunity to do it at Reno, but he did not. You know, as far as we know, nobody's running this thing over 65 because from what I've seen and what I've heard from people, it doesn't end very well. And I have an FCU challenge out there now for over 2 years to have people ground test it or fly it over the airport. I'll give you $10,000 if you could do it successfully. Nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to chance it. They all tell me, you're nuts. We won't do that. Mike already did it. We know it doesn't work. And that still stands today. And I can't find anybody in the entire world that runs or flies this thing at 85.
One seemed to me that particular screw that was allowing the FCU to put out 85 atmospheres, it would seem to me that if it was adjusted that grossly, if I could use a better term, better words, where it was putting out 85 ATM, it would seem like somewhere along the way, this would be evident in the startup, in the EGT, in the fuel flow. And this jet was flown several times after the annual condition inspection, and it seems that none of this came to light in any way, shape, or form, unless, and I'm really stretching out there, unless there's other adjustments that could hide this condition. But I would doubt it based on what was said by the factory in the reports within the NTSB report, where 85, I mean, it's like way, way, way above any safe level to operate that aircraft.
Right. And we don't have any reports from Mike, no conversations of lack of performance or performance problem. Sure, they want to go faster, but Mike didn't want to go faster. That was not his intentions. He was not trying to win anymore. You know, you've had conversations with Mike, but before we get into, you know, what Mike was trying to do at Reno as far as winning and what he would do to win, let me say that when he was on that final flight, Mike is no stranger to the fire in a cockpit on a jet. He had a burning F4 he had to bail out of at Rapid Deployment Force down in Valdosta, Georgia. You know, he got his rear weapons officer out there and he bailed out. So he's no stranger to these fire emergencies like that. So we know when he took off, the NTSB verified this, he's opening the toggle switch, shutting the fuel flow off because he knew he was on fire. And we can probably also know that he realized the EGTs were above normal, the exhaust gas temperatures, and that engine vibration was abnormal. And he probably heard something from his passenger. So there's a number of things we know is wrong, plus the general power, the takeoff. Because when Mike takes off, usually he's 100, 200 feet off the ground, not even more than halfway down the runway. It's gear up and he's already doing something, some type of aerobatic maneuver. Well, that didn't happen. Mike was trying to deal with the jet that was on fire. And I'll just add that we know he went to the right of runway 18, he took off run to make a smooth arc to land on the adjacent runway 08. You know, you do the math, it's more than a 90-degree turn, about a 100-degree turn to the left. And that's why he was found to the right of the runway. And you look at the soot mark on the ground, you see that curve. Let me also add that he's the pylon racing school instructor. And part of what they do is they have to be able to dead stick in their jet to be able to race up there. So you're up 3,000 feet. They're going to turn the engine off and say, okay, safely landed at Reno Stead. That's part of what you got to do. So he's no stranger to dead sticking in an aircraft. He has that skill. So I just want to, you know, make those points. And then there's another thing we want to talk about, Joe, I think is the lead seals on the settings on the safety wire on the FCU. Maybe you could, you know, give me your viewpoint on that.
Well, normally, from my experience, when out of a factory or maintenance facility, especially back in Europe, when they work on an intricate unit like this FCU, the safety wire gets a lead seal. You know, they at the end of the safety wire, they put it in there. Some facilities even have like a mark to show the maintenance facilities, logo, whatever. Very common though here in the States, people who work on these aircraft, when they break the original safety wire, they'll safety it up, but I don't know anybody, I'm not aware of anybody who uses lead seal, you know, after they're done safety wiring, say adjustments on a fuel control unit. Again, there's a couple of facilities out there that specialize in jet warbird maintenance, work on a variety of L-29s, L-39s, T-33s, etc. I'm not aware of any maintenance repair organization that does that. I could be wrong, but just in my experience, I see people have done adjustments, they safety wire it accordingly, they're done, they're good to go.
Okay, so there may not be a lead seal.
No.
But when we look at this, the NTSB does not say it was found safety wired. That's a strange anomaly. Perhaps it's an omission, I don't know. But I've seen the various types of safety wiring. Sometimes you can identify who did the wiring. Is it Russian wire? Is it American wire? What brand wire, where did it come from? The lead seal, same thing. Perhaps there's an imprint, but maybe there is no lead seal. So it was not found safety wire. Perhaps because I lean toward foul play, perhaps the assailant, the evildoer, didn't want to leave any trace evidence that could lead back to them or their organization. And so no safety wire, no lead seal, you know, that was not found.
Again, the mystery that needs to be solved.
So
okay.
In a previous number 3 video, I cited 10 points why we believe it's foul play. Now, we'll go here to number 11, and on my screen, maybe we can get this up. The control room will help me out. In the yellow or gold writing, it says they had no flight suits, the flame retardant flight suits. I mentioned that. So they knew it was a casual flight. They didn't know about a high risky set. So we'll go to number 13. There was no reason for the high setting. It was not a performance run or race. I think we went over that point. Yep. 14, it does not fit Mike's past behavior patterns and intentions. I think we went over that, but you talked to Mike at Reno in 2015. Was he up there trying to all out win at all costs?
No. He, I spoke to him briefly when he bought this jet and mentioned that he was in it with a partner and they wanted to casually race it, do some air shows. It almost sounded like Mike was taking a few notches back off of the the competitive side of the air race, the jet class. He was kind of scaling back a little bit.
Right.
That's the impression I was left with.
And me too. So I don't think he was willing to take all these chances to try and win. So point 15, no one has taken me up on the FCU challenge. We don't know of anyone that's flown this over 75 ATM or up to 85 ATM in the FCU. Number 16, we verified Mike never went over 65 ATM at Reno in the FCU. He had the motive, means, and opportunity. We heard from the mechanics up there, and you can see that in my video number 5, where I have, information from those mechanics, Tobias and Anna Boardman. And the last point 17, and there's many more, but I'm not going to list them all here because it gets into motive, means, and opportunity of why I believe it was foul play and the assailants may have done this. I'm not going to operate in that lane right now. I leave that to law enforcement. That would be a criminal matter. And at a minimum, I believe it's sabotage, if not a murder or homicide of 2 people, Mike Mangold and Giza Desi. So the last point I'll make is I say there was a unique time compressed event of extreme heat, fuel pressure, and fire that is explainable why we had this series of events in 20 seconds or less that happened at takeoff and killed both these people.
I tend to agree. And, Rob, you're asking very legitimate questions, in my opinion, especially after reading all the data that's now embedded in the report, which for the record is Docket WPR 16FA035. Under that docket number, under this accident report, you could pull up all this, all the information there. No, Rob, I think these are legitimate questions to be asked, especially by a member of the family. And I know I could ask, why are you doing this?
And, Joe, I want to get the truth out. I want the world to know what happened. I want justice. If there were assailants, I believe there were. I believe we've shown enough trace evidence that is foul play. Others that operate in the other lane I spoke of, they think so too. So that's all I want to do. I'm not a professional YouTuber. I don't make any money at this. I don't want to. I don't want the fame. There's no fame or fortune in this. You see ads come up in my videos. I don't put them in. I don't get anything from that. I just want the world to look at this and say, was it a crash? Was it an accident? Perhaps look at the information and evidence we present and just think about it, reconsider it. As so many of you have, who used to say accident and now talk to me and you don't say anything. You're silent. So apparently you moved from, you were talking about an accident to now you don't want to talk about it anymore. You're silent and you look down. So these people, hundreds, thousands really, have moved from accident to it's not an accident anymore. And we're moving in this direction of foul play. So anything else you want to add?
No, Rob, I'm glad I'm here to help you. Again, I would like to see this solved. And if there's anyone out there that comes up, anything to contradict me, I'm retired. I have nothing to lose. I'm humble. If I'm wrong about any of my statements, hey, tell me, point, because I think if I said something out of line here and then was pointed in the correct direction, it'll help you. It'll give you some help. And I hope down the line we could get to the bottom of this to give you and your family some closure.
I appreciate that, Joe. I could be corrected too. If somebody wants to fly it at 85 ATM, that's on you. Prove me wrong. I believe I proved it's not an accident. It's not performance tuning. It's not suicide. We're left with foul play.
So what have we learned in the 6 videos so far? older L-39s have worn parts, flaws, but are still airworthy after 30 plus years. We've talked to several mechanics. We've looked at all the manuals. We've talked to many pilots. We can confirm 50 ATM is cause for concern. 65 is the highest red line maximum set by the manufacturer. Do not exceed. 85 is maximum of the FCU device itself that it can be set to. And we have the proof. We know how it ends in a fireball. We have an FCU challenge to run it at 85 ATM. That's been going on 3 years now. What it has revealed to us, that you as a mechanic, if you set it there, and a pilot, you fly it there, you're probably both going to lose your license for civil negligence and criminal sabotage, and for property damage and death. If you did this setting in any other stock L-39, the result would most likely be the same. All settings should be tested with an engine run-up on the ground first. The saboteurs even knew this, because the fire would have happened on the full run-up. An approved partial run-up was done up to 85% power. That would not detect it. We have shown you Mike had disapproved anything over 65 ATM on the FCU repeatedly. Now, I've heard at 75 ATM, the engine disintegrates. Why would you need to go to 85 ATM? We've shown you nobody was aware of the fatal 85 ATM setting except the saboteur, and what they hoped the end result would be. Everything burned and destroyed beyond all recognition. So there would be no evidence, just another accident. We all know otherwise now. In the future, we see a next phase that will be focused on motive, means, and opportunity. We thank you for your support in our pursuit for the truth.
So with that, I thank you so much, Joe. And to you folks out there watching, we will see you another day, another way. Thank you.